Hey, it's Miss Diaz. Today we want to be learning about the girl with the red slippers. Do you remember this story? I know many of you know about this. And the ones that doesn't know anything about it, we want to learn about it. So let's start to learn about it. This is a fairy tale. We want to put attention to the characters, setting, and events. And we want to see how and understand how fairy tales are similar. Let's continue. Fairy tales. We know that there is magic. We see magic on it. Enchantment. Very many things are not real. Story beginning. Once upon a time, there was one little girl, royalty. We see some kind of queen or princess or prince in the history. Good. We see people that is good, and we see others that are evil, like the witch. We see a title and a setting, and most of the time the setting is a castle of the forest. We want to put attention to the vocabulary words cautiously, prefer, court, and revive. You know what this means? You know what cautious means? Cautious is when you need to be very, very careful. Prefer, which one do you like the most? The apple or the donut? That's prefer. Revive is when something is almost dying and you take care of it so it revives. And last but not least, and we have escort. And this is search very careful. So you need to look very careful at something. The girl with the red slippers.
A long time ago in ancient Egypt, there lived a beautiful young girl called Rhoda. Rhoda was a slave. Rhoda was forced to work without pay and could not do what she liked. She had been born in Greece but had been kidnapped by pirates. The pirates had sold the young girl to a rich Egyptian merchant. Rhoda now worked as a servant in his house. Because Rhoda was from another land, she did not look like the other servants or her master. Whereas they had dark hair and dark eyes, she had golden curls and green eyes. No amount of brushing would straighten those curls. The other servants teased Rhoda. They also made her work even harder than they did. She had to get up before the sun rose, and she had to work while the stars twinkled in the night sky. She cleaned her master's house, she baked bread, she washed her master's clothes, she sewed, and she even tended to the garden. Rhoda lived a lonely life. The other servants wanted nothing to do with her, and the master, though kind, spent his time either sleeping in the warm sunshine or conducting business. Over time, the animals became her friends. Rhoda chatted with the birds that nested in the lemon and lime trees that she tended. She told her troubles to the great white eaglets, and she teased the red-tailed dragonflies. However, her best friend in the whole world was a hippopotamus. Whenever she went to the Nile River to wash her master's clothes, one particular hippo would come to the edge of the river. It would wallow in the water near her and keep her company while she worked. The hippo would look at her with its big round eyes. Its ears would flicker whenever she spoke. Sometimes they would play together. Rhoda would splash water in the hippo's direction. The hippo would sink down under the water and then reappear close by. One day, while picking lemons from the lemon trees in the garden, Rhoda heard music coming from her master's house. She placed her basket on the ground and began to dance to the music. She moved gracefully like a ballerina. Rhoda danced in the warm sunshine. As she danced, her master woke up from a long nap. As he stretched and yawned, he looked around the garden. He spotted Rhoda dancing to the music. Rhoda moved so elegantly, her master thought to himself, that someone who danced like a butterfly as Rhoecus did deserved elegant shoes to adorn her bare feet. The next day he went to his own shoemaker and asked him to make a pair of red silk dancing slippers. The soles of the slippers were to be made of the very finest leather. Several days later, the shoes arrived, and Rhoecus' master presented them to her as a gift. Rhoecus was speechless. Rhoecus loved her slippers. The other servants were jealous that she had been given such an exquisite gift. They treated her even more horribly than before. This made Rhoecus very sad. Whenever she could, she would cautiously sneak off into the garden, put on her red slippers, and dance. Cautiously means carefully or staying away from danger or risk. Quite often, she danced at night beneath the sparkling stars when everyone else was asleep. Rhoecus loved her slippers. The other servants were jealous that she had been given such an exquisite gift. They treated her even more horribly than before. This made Rhoecus very sad. Whenever she could, she would cautiously sneak off into the garden, put on her red slippers, and dance. Cautiously means carefully or staying away from danger or risk. Quite often, she danced at night beneath the sparkling stars when everyone else was asleep. One day, Rhoecus' master was informed that the pharaoh Amasis had decided to hold a grand banquet at his royal palace in Memphis. All of his subjects were invited, even the servants. Rhoecus was so excited. However, she quickly learned that the other servants had no intention of letting her go. Instead, they gave her piles of laundry to do and warned her that it better all be done by the time they returned. As the servants prepared to depart, Rhoecus carried a huge pile of laundry down to the river. Rhoecus worked for several hours, washing and scrubbing the clothes. Her faithful friend the hippo kept her company. The hippo always cheered up Rhoecus, and so, after a while, Rhoecus' spirits were revived. She began to play with him. The word revived means refreshed. Rhoecus felt much better. As Rhoecus cheerfully splashed the hippo, it suddenly moved and ducked down beneath the water. Here, the word duck means that the hippo lowered its head quickly to avoid being splashed. Then it reappeared quite suddenly right beside Rhoecus. As the hippo lifted its large head, it created a wave of water that cascaded down upon Rhoecus. She was drenched. So too were her beautiful slippers. Rhoecus sighed and scratched the hippo's head. Then she took off her slippers and placed them on a rock to dry. After that, she continued with her work. She did not even stop to eat. After a long while, Rhoecus finished washing all the clothes. By now, her back and arms were aching, but she was happy to be done. Just as she was about to put on her red slippers, she heard the flapping of wings. In an instant, one of her slippers was gone. From out of the darkening sky, a falcon had swooped down and stolen it. A falcon is a type of bird that can fly very fast. Rhoecus gasped out loud. She was certain that the falcon was actually the god Horus. Horus is the sky god in the ancient Egyptian religion. It was a sign of something, but of what she did not know. There was nothing Rhoecus could do. She put her one remaining slipper in her pocket and returned to her master's house in her bare feet. Meanwhile, at the royal palace, an enormous crowd had gathered. The crowd was enjoying the festivities. Pharaoh Amasis looked on from his raised throne in the banquet hall. Although he was happy to see his subjects enjoying themselves, he preferred to go hunting, as Amasis did not have a wife or children. He spent most of his spare time hunting with his friends. As the day wore on, Amasis grew restless. He was just about to sneak away from the banquet when a great falcon swooped down and dropped a small red slipper at his feet. Amasis picked up the small slipper and stared at it. He was certain that the god Horus had sent him a message. Amasis thought for a while. Then he summoned his advisors. He had decided that the god Horus was telling him that the owner of the red slipper would be his wife. The banquet was halted, and an announcement was made that the pharaoh himself would search the land for the owner of the red slipper. The guests slowly began to leave. Nabonidus' master had already left the palace. He had gone off to take care of some business, and so he had not heard the announcement. The servants, however, had. Together, they decided that they would not breathe a word to Rhoecus. As the weeks went by, The pharaoh scoured the land for his future wife. He searched by land and by water, but he was unsuccessful. At last his search brought him by royal barge to a region in the northern part of his kingdom. Rhodopis was washing clothes in the river as the royal barge appeared in the distance. The other servants saw it too, and knew immediately what it meant. As the barge neared the bank of the river, the royal trumpeters sounded the pharaoh's arrival. Immediately, the servants ordered Rhodopis to hide herself in the reeds, as she was, they told her, too lowly a servant to be in the presence of the pharaoh. With the red slipper in one hand, Amasis stepped off the royal barge. Upon seeing the slipper, the female servants elbowed each other out of the way, all wanting to be the first to try it on. As this was happening, Rhodopis peeked out from the reeds. She wanted to see the pharaoh's face. As she peeked out, Amasis spotted her. He stared at the beautiful girl for several moments, and Rhodopis's heart skipped a beat. Amasis asked Rhodopis to step forward, and then he placed her tiny foot inside the red slipper. As he did so, it was clear to all that she was the owner of the slipper. The other servants were horrified that she would be the pharaoh's queen, but the master gave his blessing. Together, Amasis and Rhodopis sailed away on the royal barge, with its purple sails fluttering in the gentle breeze that blew across the Nile River. Behind the barge swam Rhodopis' best friend and honored wedding guest.
Okay, you like this book? What this book reminds you? Yes, of Cinderella. She lost the slipper as well. So let's see what is the activity for today. And remember the word cautious. Cautious means that you need to go very careful. You need to do stuff with care. So let's see. The girl with the red slipper. You're gonna draw a picture of of one of the beginning of the history, and you wanna write a sentence telling about what happened in the history. So you wanna draw the picture and write a sentence about what happened in the beginning of the history. Don't forget, you need to use capital letter at the beginning of the sentence. You need to put your finger and leave a space. You need to end with a punctuation mark, and you need to use all you know about spelling words. So just do the best. Did your words are gonna be perfect? No. Did I want them perfect? No, because we are going to make it perfect. With practice and time, we wanna make it perfect. So don't worry if you don't know how to write one word. Just try your best. Remember, you have to do the picture and one sentence telling me what happened at the beginning of the book. Don't forget to submit your answer.